I'm sitting with Chana Martineau of the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation, and we're talking energy and talking Indigenous involvement. So thank you very much for joining us today to explain what your corporation's about.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So it's been a big issue a lot lately, Indigenous participation in the energy sector, partnerships, no longer just talking about working around Indigenous nations, but actually involving them in the projects. I believe that's part of the focus of what you guys are about and helping facilitate.
Yeah, absolutely, Cory. Thanks so much for asking. And we're really about supporting Indigenous investment. So the Conservative government in 2019 really saw a gap in the ability for Indigenous nations to access financing, to become full equity partners at the table for energy projects. And we were focused solely on energy when we started in 2019. This has been a really important step. It's coming together to share the opportunity and the risk of energy projects with our Indigenous neighbors. I'm First Nation, so I will say also my home nation and the Métis communities in our province. It's been a really exciting development. It's one that the world is noticing. Other jurisdictions in our country are copying Alberta's approach, or emulating Alberta's approach, I should say, and finding a pathway through to shared prosperity through large-scale infrastructure projects in our province.
Yeah, so there's a lot of interest from the Indigenous communities. I mean, people kind of think that there's a blanket opposition to energy development. I think a lot of it is just that they just want to make sure that they're participants in it and benefiting it from like anybody else.
Absolutely. And due to restrictions in the Indian Act, it's really tough for Indigenous communities to borrow money in a traditional way. And then you layer on, various other challenges with, systemic racism issues and legacies of colonialism. And that's just made it impossible to have a full seat at the table. And so really, this is a new path forward, and I really applaud the energy companies. I think there are many, many companies, especially in Alberta, that have led the desire for this program. So companies like Enbridge, Tamarack Valley, Strathcona Resources, they have all embarked on partnerships with Indigenous communities, and they have said to governments, not only in Alberta, but nationally, that we need these programs because it's good for our business too.
Yeah, and I mean, it just facilitates the smooth, cooperation with people in those areas that are impacted by energy development and projects.
Absolutely.
So this is it's not a direct subsidy thing. A lot of it's loan guarantees and financing, right, as opposed to a handout, which could be problematic.
Absolutely. So it's a very, very small impact to the Alberta balance sheet. So basically what we do is we act almost like a co-signer for the loan. Mm-hmm. So if you think about, your young teenager wants to buy a car and the bank won't lend them money, so you get one of the parents to co-sign the loan, and the parent only pays the loan if the payments are missed. It's a very similar story. So think about us doing large-scale mortgages. Instead of on a home purchase, it's a power plant or a pipeline, and that's basically how it works. And so if we're doing our job well at the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation, then the province guarantees the debt, but there's no impact to the citizens of Alberta from that endeavor.
Yeah, it's presumed it'll be repaid like any other loan.
That's right. It's our job to make sure it's a credit-worthy deal that happens.
So do you work with smaller businesses and startups, or is this all larger initiatives?
So we don't support entrepreneurial business. We support nation-level investment, so Métis settlements and First Nation. And that's an important part, that we're not interrupting that cycle of capital. We're not interrupting the entrepreneurial ecosystem. We are supporting a gap in capital for a nation-level investment. And then the communities then use the net proceeds, so the loan gets paid back. The nation gets the proceeds in for what the business makes over and above the loan payment. Mm-hmm. And then they use that to invest in their community. So think arenas, roads, Frog Lake, my home nation, is building some water infrastructure, really important community developments that everyone can benefit from.
Yeah, and just to expand, I guess, a little on, some people don't necessarily understand why Indigenous communities have a harder time with traditional financing than others. Most communities rely, they'll have a capital asset they can sort of leverage to, hold in case there's a loan problem or something like that, but there's not this traditional ownership like we imagine on the reserves. They can't liquidate a part of the reserve to pay for a loan.
And you can't hold it as collateral because you don't own it.
Yeah.
So any reserve land is crown land, and due to restrictions in the Indian Act, you cannot hold that land as collateral. So I, as a First Nations person, as a treaty person, cannot take a mortgage on a home on reserve in the same way that someone else can take a mortgage on a home somewhere else. And so when you think about the ways that wealth is grown, that assets are grown, typically it involves debt. And so opening up the Indian Act is a very problematic type of endeavor. There's lots to that. It's like renegotiating the Constitution. And so what the Alberta government has done, and other governments have followed suit, is to come with these loan guarantee programs as a way to address restrictions there that are holding Indigenous people back.
So are there some existing projects now on the go that you guys have already facilitated?
We have so far facilitated investments in 9 transactions, 43 Indigenous communities in our province. That's both First Nations and Métis settlements have invested in those large-scale infrastructure projects. They're all on our website. There's a variety of projects. There's many more on the go. And we believe that the net returns on those investments, net of loan payments, will earn those communities back $1.4 billion over the life of the loan guarantees. And so that's money that's going into things like I said, other business development, roads, water treatment facilities, community centers, things that are sorely lacking in Indigenous communities. I know there are many that have trouble with just basic power and clean drinking water. And so really, really important for a way for them to self-fund the needs of their communities.
Yeah, so there's much, of course, we're at the Global Energy Show, so it's an energy focus. But beyond that, there's some other initiatives and types of industries that you guys are helping some communities get financing with?
Absolutely. So our mandate covers everything from agriculture to telecom and technology now that's been recently announced. And so what is important there is that the Alberta government is saying we want to support Indigenous investment in all aspects of our economy. The energy sector clearly is the economic growth engine of our province and our country. And so it's important that Indigenous people have an involvement there, but also that there's future economic opportunities and growth, and that Indigenous people are there as well. And stronger, healthier Indigenous communities really benefits every single person in our province.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, just the business involvement and development of things, you're creating a new generation of people to look forward to other investments as you go farther down and kind of break out of the cycle that some people are stuck in, right?
Absolutely. And when you think about it, I always think about it as like a pebble dropping in a pond. The ripples outward. So when we talk about Whitefish, Goodfish Lake First Nation, they built a community center with some of the proceeds of their investments. And when you think about that, that's procurement, that's jobs, that's construction, materials, that's all sourced likely from the region, right? It's more employment, it's long-term employment, and it's also, the community center is an arena. It's a healthy place to hold hockey tournaments, ringette tournaments, it's a place to have summer activities, a place to gather. Yeah, it's a social hub for not only their community, but all the communities around them as well. So when you just think about the economic growth from just that one investment and how that positively impacts outward all the entire region, I think the future looks a lot brighter as a result of these investments.
Great. Well, so before I let you go, is there more you'd like to add? And also, where would people find out more information about your corporation so they could follow up on it? Right?
Absolutely. So we are active on social media, so Facebook, LinkedIn, those kinds of things. We have a website that's www.theaioc.com. And so all of our projects are listed there. You can find out more about it. And there's also your ability to reach out to our teams. And so we're looking forward to the new government's focus on building infrastructure, I think, right across our country. And we're hopeful that Indigenous people can be fully at the table to participate in that.
Great. Well, I thank you for the work you guys are doing. I'm looking forward to seeing some good, projects coming up and more participation. This is so much bad us versus them sort of attitude when it really shouldn't be. It should be a partnership.
We're stronger together. And I think Canadians are starting to realize that the us versus them might not be internal, and that we're stronger together, both across our country and with Indigenous peoples. And I'm looking forward to how we proceed from here.
Great. Well, thank you again for spending some time and explaining that to us. And I'll let you get back to the show here.
Great. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you.